Okay. It is actually,
Thank you.
it is recording.
Okay.
Okay. So we are.
Quick question also.
Yes.
In number 1,
Yes.
the equation is y is equals to 3x cubed plus 4x squared minus 8x. And then what is the 4 and 10?
4 and?
4
I
and
understand
10.
that maybe it's plus 10 or
This is
is
plus.
it plus 10?
This is plus 10, not 410.
Wait, okay.
Okay.
So, thanks.
But you can remember that when we differentiate a constant, the constant disappears. That's
Yes.
why we don't have it here. It is plus. Okay.
Okay.
So we come here, when we have negative 4x power 4, and we are finding the derivative of that, this power will multiply negative 4 to have what? Negative 16 x power
3
minus 3 times 10, which is what?
Negative 30.
Yes.
X power 2.
X power 2 plus. I want you to give me the answer.
Oh, 8x.
8x, yes. Minus, we are here.
8x minus 8.
Minus 8. That is going to be the derivative, which is dy over dx.
Alimu,
Yes.
hapo kwa 16x power 3.
This one, there was no. Let me lab this. There is something that can confuse you here. It is like that. It is like that.
Oh, ni negative 4x.
The negative 4x power 4.
Oh,
We get it now.
You get it. So this 4 will multiply 4 to give you negative 16. But the power was positive. 4 minus 1 is what? 3.
To 3.
It goes on like that. Is it okay?
Yes.
So basically that is what we talked about on differentiation. Then maybe if I can remind you on integration. Integration, remember we said it is the opposite of differentiation. And when we differentiate, we normally subtract 1 from the power. But when we integrate, now we add that 1 to the power. And when, for example, you are told, when you are told to push it. When you are told, I want to integrate this particular equation so that we can see whether we are going to come back here. So if you are told integrate negative 16 x power 3 minus 30 x power 2 plus 8 x minus 8 with respect to x. Here now, whatever we are going to get is going to be y is equals to, remember we add the power by 1, and then the answer that we are going to get after adding 1, we divide by that. Sindio?
Yes.
So in this case, it's going to be negative 16 x
power 4 divided by 4.
Yes, x power 4 divided by 4. Then we come here minus 30 x 2 plus 1 is 3 over 3. You remember that? Plus 8x. Remember, whenever the power is not indicated, it is power 1. So it is 1 plus 1, which is 2. And then we divide here by 2. Minus, whenever there is no x, we said, simply remember there is x power 0, which is not indicated. So we put 8x, 0 plus 1 is in the power 1. And then we divide by 1. And then we said, when we integrate, we normally say plus c.
Constant.
Yes, the constant c. So that now, when you divide this, you are going to find that is going to be negative 4x raised to power 4. This 3 will go to 30 how many times? Minus 10 x power 3 plus 2 will go to 8 4 times x raised to power 2 minus 8x.
8x.
Then we say
plus C.
plus the
Constant
constant.
C.
So you can be able to see actually that we have come back here, and this constant, which was 9, has now been presented by what? By C.
C.
Because we cannot be able to determine the constant that was initially there. So that's why we normally say plus C. So, and actually we can confirm that integration is the opposite of differentiation. So whenever we are differentiating, we normally multiply the power by the coefficient, and then we less the power by 1. But whenever we are integrating, we add the power, we add 1, and then the resulting power we divide by.
Integration. Find y. How are you, Mwalimu?
Okay, I'm good. It is Royce who is joining. I'm wondering what has gone wrong. Huh? I'm wondering what has gone wrong. Huh?
Everything is wrong.
Yes.
Okay.
Traffic.
Yeah?
This integration thing.
We are now moving on. I'm actually doing a recap of what we did. Of what we did last. I know it has been long. Actually, it is 1 full week. So that we don't have gaps in what we are going to discuss today is actually good to bring everybody on board. So the moment you are able to understand that, then you can be able to go on. But before we go, remember, all through we have been talking about y is equals to something x. But remember, you can be told maybe y is equals to 2q cubed plus 4q minus, that is b squared, minus 8q plus maybe 15. This one is plus, don't mistake it. So if you are looking for, or you are differentiating, obviously it's going to be dy over dq.
Dx. DQ,
Because here we have q. When it was 2x cubed and all that, we were doing over the dx. But now because it is q, it is going to be like this. And then you go ahead, it's going to be 6q squared plus 8q minus 8. It is the same concept. So it is, if it is like this, you do it like that. So what about if the equation was maybe z is equals to 8t squared plus 9t minus maybe 11. What are we going to do when we are looking for the derivative? It is going to be d what over d what?
dz over dt.
dz over dt. So whatever we have here is what becomes the value here. If it is y is equals to, we are going to do dy. If it is going to be q is equals to, we are going to have dq. And then here we have that. Note that. Now, the discussion for today was about application of calculus. Application on the application part. And in business, the motive in most businesses, actually not most businesses, but all the businesses, the motive is to make what? Profit.
Profit.
Yes. Any business is normally established with the motive of generating profit. Now the question here, how do we get profit? In our discussion, profit we normally denote it by pi. Profit is normally denoted by pi. So you know pi r squared, but that sign for pi is what we normally use to denote the profit. So anywhere you shall be finding the word or the symbol pi being used, we are referring to profit. So if I ask a simple question here, how do we calculate profit, or how do we determine profit? It is what minus what? pi is equals to, let me ask a question here. Maybe, yes, Damaris. If you have a business today and you want to know how much you have realized as profit, how are you going to determine that? Anyway.
I think I will, sorry?
Yes, just go on, go on.
I think I will have to take the purchasing costs.
Yes.
I less on the selling cost so that I can get what I have earned as my profit.
Exactly, that is very true.
Yeah.
So profit, it is simply the amount that you have sold, you less the cost that you incurred. So if, for example, I buy something at 100 shillings, this is actually the cost. And I come and sell that same item at 120 shillings, this one is normally referred as revenue. Sorry. This is the revenue. So for me to be able to get the profit, see, it is simply the revenue minus the cost. In short, it is going to be 120 what I have earned minus 100 what is costed me. So in short, I have earned a profit of what? 20 shillings. So profit is a function of revenue minus a cost. That one will give you the profit. So at this point, we can come here and say this. Profit. Sorry, can we mute our mics kindly?
Okay.
Kindly. Are we able to mute our mics so that, unless you are raising a question, so that we avoid the background noise? So I was saying this, that profit is a function of revenue and cost. So it is normally given by the total revenue minus the total, let me have this part. It is given by total revenue, we minus the total cost. Like that. So in short, pi is normally given by the total revenue minus the total cost. We normally denote the total revenue as the TR, whereas the total cost is normally denoted by the TC. So pi is total revenue minus total cost. In our previous discussion, there's something we mentioned about the turning points. Remember, we talked about the maxima. We talked about the maxima. And we also talked about the minima. We talked about that. And we said this, at these turning points, the gradient of that particular function is normally 0. The gradient is always 0 at the turning point. The same case, the gradient at this minimum point is also 0. So in this question, when it is going to appear in our exam, most commonly, you will be told to determine the number of units that are going to make our profit maximum. How many units the company or an organization should produce and sell for the profit to be maximum. So in that case, you need to remember that whenever we are looking for the maximum point, the gradient of that function must always be equal to 0. And when we talk about the gradient, it is simply the derivative. the gradient is simply the derivative. The gradient function, we said, is normally obtained after differentiating the function. So it is going to be given by d pi, because we are going to have the equation for the profit is equals to something. You can find actually an equation that says profit is equals to 2q squared plus 4q minus 8. Just a minute. Let me power my laptop. And now we can go on. I was saying this, you have been given, this is the equation of the profit, where you are told that the profit equation of an organization is given by pi is equals to 2q squared plus 4q minus 8, where q is the number of units the organization produces and sells. Now you are told, determine the number of units that the organization need to produce and sell for the profit to be maximum. So one thing you need to remember, we are being told about a maximum point whose gradient function is actually, or whose gradient is 0. And the function of the gradient is normally obtained by differentiating. So in this case, if we differentiate d pi over dq, it is going to give us the gradient function for the profit. Therefore, you come here and you say, at the maximum pi, d pi over dq should be equal to 0. And what is d pi over dq? What is d pi over dq, if we can go there very fast? This is the equation for pi. If we differentiate it, what are we going to get? Allah, you have forgotten? Just unmute your mics now and maybe communicate. If we differentiate this 2q squared, what are we going to get?
For Q.
Yes, we are going to get 4q plus, if we differentiate 4q, we are going to get what? 4.
4.
Yes,
4.
Therefore, see, that is d pi over dq, eh? And we have said here, at maximum pi, d pi over dq is what? 0. Therefore,
0.
So at that point, 4q plus 4 should be equal to what? 0. So 4q, remember this one is just but an imaginary equation, is equals to -4. So q is equals to -4 divided by 4, which is actually -1. Have you seen?
Just move a bit your screen, teacher.
Upwards or downwards?
Upward.
Like that?
Yeah.
So we have here -4. I've just, remember this is the d pi over dq is equals to this. And we know at that point is equals to 0. So this equation, we equate it to what? 0. Then we take
0.
We take 4 to the other side to be -4. So 4q is equals to -4. So q in this case is going to be equal to -4.
-1.
Over 4, yes, which is equals to negative.
Mwalimu, can you write a little bit bigger? I can't even see.
Oh, it is that small back at one for nini. Okay.
Sioni kabisa.
Okay, sawa. Okay, sawa. And maybe a disclaimer, you know, I'm using my personal account for the Zoom, because all the other Zoom accounts had been booked for the evening classes. So shortly we might find ourselves, you are logged out. So because of the limit of 40 minutes, so if you find yourself logged out, you just log in using the same link. Use the same link, you join the class again.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So, okay. I want
Maybe you can repeat again the last bit.
Okay. Let me go and come up with another equation. We say we have got this. You are told that the profit function of an organization is determined by pi is equals to, let's say it is 4q squared minus 16q plus 30. That is the profit function. I hope now you can be able to see that.
Yeah.
Yes. Now the question is telling you, you determine the number of units the organization should produce so that the profit is maximum. One thing you need to remember, at the maximum profit point, d pi over dq is always equal to 0, because we know the gradient at that point is 0. So you need to come here and do d pi over dq, which will give you what? 2 times 4?
8q.
8q. Minus
16.
Minus 16, and this one will disappear. See, that is the case. So this
Yeah.
is our d pi over dq. And we know at maximum profit, at maximum pi, we know d pi over dq is equals to 0. Therefore, so we have d pi over dq. So what we need to do is to equate that d pi over dq. If this is our d pi over dq, therefore then 8q minus 16 must be equal to what? 0. D pi over dq is this one. Then we equate it to 0. So 8q is equals to what? Positive 16.
16.
Yes. So q would be equal to what? 16
Q is equals to 8.
Over 8, which is actually 2. I've just divided by 8 by 8. So 2 units. So if that organization produces 2 units, it's going to generate the maximum profit.
Maximum.
Yes, this is just but an example. So if you are told to know or to determine the number of units that will maximize the profit, you just differentiate the profit function. You get your d pi over dq, and then the equation that you get, you equate it to 0. You equate it to 0, and then now you solve that equation that will come out and find the q. Find the q, which is the number of units. So very important. At maximum profit, d pi over dq is always equal to 0. And how do you get the d pi over dq? Just differentiate the profit function and you get that. Similarly, you can be told, you can be given the total revenue. You can be told that the total revenue of an organization is given by, maybe it is 4q squared minus 64q is equals to, or minus 12 is equals to 0. You are told, not 0, I think I've gone ahead. Let me stop at this point. Is it minus 12? That is the total revenue function. A question can come that requires you to determine the number of units that will be produced for the revenue to be maximum. For the revenue to be maximum. Again here, just remember, at the maximum point, remember the revenue function is actually like a curve. We can draw a curve of the revenue, or it can be like this. At that maximum point, the gradient of that revenue curve is going to be 0. So you need to come here and you say at maximum per TR, in this case, at maximum total revenue, change in total revenue over change in Q is equal to 0. So if it is maximum pi, you do change in pi over change in Q. If it is the maximum total revenue is change in total revenue, because this equation is talking about TR is equals to something Q. Change in TR over change in Q is going to be equal to 0. So change in TR over change in Q will be equal to what?
8Q
8Q
minus 64.
minus 64. So we are told that change in TR over change in Q should be equal to 0. Therefore, 8Q minus 64 should be equal to what? 0. So 8Q will be equal to 64. So Q will be equal to what? 64
8.
divided by 8, which is what? 8 units. So if we produce 8 units, our total revenue is going to be maximum. Our total revenue is going to be maximum. So Q is the number of units that will maximize the total revenue. The question can proceed to ask you, determine the total revenue or determine the maximum revenue. After getting this, maybe this one was part A of the question, determine the number of units that will maximize total revenue. Part B, now you are asked, determine the maximum revenue. When you are told to determine the maximum revenue, having obtained the value of Q that will maximize the total revenue, you just take that Q to the total revenue function. Where you have Q, you substitute with what? 8. So your maximum TR, your maximum total revenue would be equal to what? 4 times 8 squared minus 64 times 8 minus 12. You just come here and replace. Where there is Q, put 8. So instead of Q squared, you have 8 squared. Instead of 64 times Q now becomes 64 times 8. Similarly, at this point here, where we were talking about the maximum profit, these are the units that will maximize the profit. The next question that will be asked, determine the maximum profit. You just take these 2 units and come and replace them here. The maximum profit therefore will be equal to 4. Instead of Q squared, we are going to have 2 squared minus 16Q. In this case, Q is 2. And then you proceed like that. You work out that, you get the answer. So at this point, I want you now to refer to the questions that you have.
Mwalimu, just a minute.
Yes.
Can we do the equation for the last one while replacing now Q with 8?
Okay, no problem. This one, the total, yes. the maximum revenue therefore, see, we know this is 64. Remember, 8 squared is the same as 64. So this is the same as 4 times 64. Minus 64 times 8 minus that. So we can actually do it direct. 4 times 64 is what?
256.
256 minus